Hey everyone, how you doing today? William Biz with Free Power here. We welcome you and we're so glad that you could join us today. Got a lot of good information that we're going to be talking about Aptera and how they are continuing to press forward and getting the Aptera out. And so we're glad that you could join us to hear this information. So you know what? We're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Welcome back to my channel. It's good to have you here. It's good to have everybody joining us here at Free Power. And it looks like when Aptera says something, at least some of the legacy automakers are following suit, like this video is going to bring out. So let's check this video out. Actually, I'm sorry. It's the last of the podcast where we go next. And we're just going to listen to the rest of it and how they finished it. And it's some really good stuff that's brought out. So let's check it out.
Nearly every major automaker has committed to adopting the North American charging standard, the EV charging system developed by Tesla. So by 2025, every new EV from nearly every large automaker will produce vehicles with charging ports that look identical to what you'd find on any Tesla today. Aptera was the first EV company to adopt that standard shortly after Tesla opened it to all automakers in November of 2022. So what do you think this says about the future of the EV industry as we get closer and closer to adopting a universal charging standard, at least here in the US?
It's a very hopeful sign. It tells me that the senior leadership of some of these companies that maybe we think are old and stodgy, incapable of change, that they respond to reason and logic. Any engineer who looks at the SAE combo plug and harness assembly and then looks at the Tesla or the NACS, it would say, why would you not choose the NACS? Well, we already have all this sunk costs in the other, or, it's not the standard yet. It's like, well, that's not a good reason. We need to minimize weight and cost and volume and packaging and everything else. And the NACS plug does that. And so we had the luxury of not being burdened with any legacy, and we were able to choose what we thought was the best solution. And I think the other manufacturers, maybe the senior leadership wasn't even aware that it was possible. And when they asked questions and probably their engineers came back and said, well, it is smaller, it is lighter, it's less complex. They said, well, why don't we do it? It just makes sense. So for me, it's actually very hopeful because we want a thriving electric vehicle industry. And we want these manufacturers to make good decisions that make them successful and employ more people, and they're buying more products that lower the cost of it for us and everybody. So we want them to be successful. So I would say it's a very positive sign.
Legacy debt is the arch enemy of first principles thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, the sunk cost fallacy is something that people fight often. Even, there's probably decisions that we've made here that could have been made faster had we not been crippled by the idea of, well, the money that we've already spent, we're going to throw it all away. It's like, no, you're throwing it away by keeping doing it. You can cut your losses and do something better.
It's been a long journey, I think for you and Chris especially, all the way back in the early 2000s when you first got the idea in the Mojave Desert to start Aptera, and then started tinkering with it in your garage in the mid 2000s, and then started the company and then came back to the company and rebirthed it again in 2019. So decades of time now. You probably more than most anyone I could think of to talk to about Aptera are looking forward to it coming out and being available to consumers. When can we expect to see the Aptera being driven around on our streets? When can someone buy it, go pick it up, and drive it off the lot?
I still believe early next year. Early 2025. I think if the funding stays on track with what we're doing with U.S. capital, I think that is very achievable. But I see it as a spectrum between now and then. So we're going to start seeing the PI build vehicles on the streets here in Carlsbad and around all of Southern California. And that's going to be a real shift for us because these are production intent vehicles. They're not nice prototypes. They're production intent. Production tooling, production dimensions, fit finish, structure, safety, but most importantly, production battery. All of our prototypes have been hampered with just a really small battery pack, and that was done to save cost and time and money, and you can only do so much with 9, 10 kilowatt hours. And that small pack gets abused with all those burnouts that you see Chris and the team doing, you know. And so to have a nominal battery pack that can go 400 miles and really give us and our PI vehicles the autonomy that we need to go and drive and do tests with journalists and be able to give them the vehicle for the weekend and let them take it on a long trip. That's going to happen before customers get their vehicles, right? And that's going to happen later this year and also beginning of next year. So I would say there'll be more of them on the road now. There'll be PI builds. They'll be going on longer trips. They'll be seen more publicly and in more everyday scenarios. And I think that's just going to build excitement and desire more than it is now. But I believe that early next year, we should be able to ship the first vehicle to a customer.
It's always great talking with you, Steve. I sincerely appreciate your transparency, both here in this conversation and in the videos that you release on Aptera's YouTube channel, because it's not incredibly common to always get that from a founder, from a CEO. I think too often companies, especially when they might miss a promised deadline, they'll obscure themselves or they'll hide behind their colleagues or their employees. So to get out in front of that and to be honest with people about what's causing the delays, what you're working on, what the future holds, what the path is, it's rare and I appreciate it. I'm rooting for Aptera. I am looking forward to the day when I can give it a test drive myself and I can see them plentifully sprinkled throughout the 405 here in Los Angeles and beyond. So thank you again for your time today, Steve, and thanks for Aptera.
Thank you, Michael. And I appreciate those kind words. I will say it's not always easy or comfortable. It's easy in that it's the right decision. You know, we know that we have to be transparent about these things. Doesn't mean it's comfortable, but it's what the company and the brand demands, I think. Thank you for noticing, and I appreciate that.
So that's very interesting what they brought out about the NAS system. They talk about how Aptera was the first to adopt it, and then how the other OEMs followed suit. Do you think they're going to continue to follow what Aptera is doing as far as the solar vehicles that Aptera is coming out with? I don't think so. They're having a hard time going from ICE cars to battery-powered vehicles already. So Aptera is coming out with the vehicle of the future, and they are not going to want to change again. I mean, they're having a hard time with that as it is. It'd be nice if they did, though. And so I think a lot of them are basically, they're going to shrink to basically nothing almost once Aptera comes out. But anyway, I think the good news here is what Aptera is doing with the vehicle of the future. They're coming out with the PI build. We know there's going to be a lot of testing going on, but the vehicle they're coming out, the PI2, that's what's going to be on the road that a lot of people are going to get to see. And this is actually the material that they're going to be using for the vehicle you are going to get. And I just am so excited about that. But they got to do all the testing. They got to do the brake test, battery test. We know the radiator unit because they're not doing the skin cooling. The motors that they're using, whatever it's going to be. And, of course, the solar panels. So they got so much testing that they have to do. The airbags, the UI. But in the end, we're going to see the results of that. And that's going to be, like I said, the vehicle that you are going to get, that we are going to get. And I can't wait for that. And most importantly, when they start traveling with the PI 2 or 3, whichever it's going to be, to different parts of the United States and then possibly across the world, because we know that there's a lot of people invested in Aptera. And this is what's so exciting, is that you will have the opportunity to drive it. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we're going to get a lot of news coming out down the pipeline here after the end of August and September and October. The news is just going to become a little bit faster and faster. There's so much to look forward to. And so how do you feel about everything that's going on with Aptera and what they're doing? We know that he brought out that they started back in 2006, 7, 8, and now they're almost at the finish line. They are almost there. And everything inside of me is telling me that they're actually going to finish and cross the finish line with this baby and start a whole new era of vehicle transportation. And yes, indeed, I am so excited about that. But anyway, this video is getting a little long, so we're going to end it right here. And we want to give a shout out to our patrons. Thank you very much. You guys are totally awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just can't say that enough. Really appreciate all that you do. And so if you are new here, hit the like, ring the bell, subscribe. You catch all my Aptera videos when they come out. And so looking forward to when they finally unveil the PI2. Oh yes, that's exciting times. But anyway, you guys take care. We'll catch you in the next video. So we're going to say goodbye. Goodbye.